Hello everyone, this is Hedgepig and this is our Tuesday night stream. Thank you for joining me. I'm hoping there is someone there and they will talk. Um, this is not the stream that I had originally planned, but we have been extremely pasta heavy lately. And it just seemed like a good idea after cooking about 4 pounds of pasta over the last 2 weeks that perhaps we could give it a rest and not have pasta again until this weekend. But I will be cooking the food that I promised. I will be making fettuccine Alfredo and pasta carbonara this Saturday so that you can, so that if you choose to cook dinner for your sweetie, you can have something that tastes really good and is really easy to put together so you can spend more of your time enjoying the food and enjoying your evening, whatever you have planned, and not have to spend it all in the kitchen. So we have moved that. And tonight, instead, I am going to be making beef stroganoff sandwiches. I will tell you the differences between making this as beef stroganoff and making it for sandwiches. Basically, it's the amount of sauce that you make with it, and that you would be putting some form of noodle with it. But we are eschewing our pasta tonight, and so we will get into that. Do I have people here watching other than you, sweetie? No one is saying hi. Hey, Mrs. Nog, Mr. Nog. Trying to get things cast into our TV. The Nogs are here. You guys should be getting Mrs. Nog's necklace that you won the last stream. Hopefully by Saturday. Depends on how long the post office takes to get through. So I have not yet posted the recipe here. We had a little bit of technical difficulties before stream. I decided it would be a good idea to reboot my computer, and I have killed computers that way before. Um, I decided to reboot my computer because it had been a long time since I had it turned off. So I went to the side and I hit the little button that shows your Windows things and went to power and hit uh, reboot, and it didn't say it was going to be loading anything or anything like that, and I figured it was relatively safe. And then it went to a blue screen and said, please don't turn off your computer. Please wait. Spin, 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 spin. And 15 minutes later, it was still spinning, and I was getting nervous. And I asked Andrew what to do, and he says, "Oh, God." That's a direct quote. And then he told me to turn the power off. And so I did it. And then it came back on, and then it said, "Please wait." Spin, 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 spin. And half an hour later, Andrew came and took it into his room with him, and asked it had I been mean to it, and all of that. And it took quite a while for the computer to forgive me uh, for what I had done to it. And Andrew managed to get it back up online about 20 minutes before stream was due to start. So it was cutting it a little close, and I was really getting nervous. So I didn't have time to get the recipe up because, of course, all of my software is on the computer that was dying. I was not nasty to your laptop. Yes, he hammers with love. So I don't have the recipe up, but this is a really simple recipe, and I will get it up after stream. And just to tell you here, what I've got is about a 2.5 to 3 pound cross rib roast. And if you don't know what that is a chuck roast. And they usually come bound up because it is a piece of meat taken off of the neck. And I'm actually gesturing to my neck here. Um, Yeah, exactly. There we go. He needs to put the masculine energy into it, the kind of thing that lets them say to a computer, "Has she been treating you mean?" I don't get it, but okay, maybe that's why the computers hate me the way they do. Chuck roast and chuck steak is actually some of the most flavorful of the meat on a cow. Um, it is very well marbled, so that fat is flavor in any kind of meat. And this is something that I'm going to have to turn the volume down on my headset because my new music that I've got in here is a little loud for me. Um, Chuck is something that it makes some of the best pot roasts. It works really well for low and slow cooking, which allows all that lovely fat to caramelize and sink into the meat. And um, because it's a very active muscle, it is also a very strong muscle, which means it can be tough. But what you need to do uh, what you need to do is make sure of how you cut it. You want to cut it thin, you want to cut it across the grain. You don't want to cut it with the grain because uh, just like a flank steak, you need to cut those muscle fibers so that what you're chewing on isn't going to be extremely chewy. So there's two thoughts in how you cook something like a chuck roast or a chuck steak. One is low and slow, the other one is fast and hot. And fast and hot is pretty much what you do when you saute. And oh, the dog's going to be happy. That's going to be for him. Um, and I'm not going to do a lot of trimming of the fat off here because, like I said, fat is flavor, and it will go through here and it will make it so it's absolutely gorgeous and lovely. And uh, this is, like I said, about a 2.5 to 3 pound roast. It is from my cousin. She had cows, and when you have cows, you get rid of cows by you can either sell them and let someone else slaughter them, or you can have a butcher come out and they dispatch your cow and they take it away, and then you have lots and lots of tasty beef. And for the low, low price of my husband cleaning out her uh, heavily frosted standing freezer and chest freezer, she gave us an entire chest freezer, our freezer, which was half the size of hers, full of meat from her cows. And they were starting to get old. She didn't do a heck of a lot if it wasn't steaks. Steaks and hamburger is what she liked, and she had a lot of roasts that she just never really used. So we got all the roasts, and we've been having the bounty of that for a while now, and we are very, very thankful every time we eat it. Okay, so what you want to do is cut this meat again across the grain. We don't have the secondary light on here, but if you can see the grain on here, maybe, I don't know. Uh, the grain goes, if I were to tip this up, the grain of the meat goes this way, front to back here. And so what I want to do is cut this in slices this way. And then after I do that, anything else I do to it is fine because um, I will have severed the main muscle tissue. And what you want to do for this in particular is you want it to be about a 1/4 inch thick slice. And then you want to cut that to be maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch thick this direction, and then just cut it into about an inch. You want to have these be nicely bite size, but you don't want to have them be so thick that it's going to take a long time to cook because it will really toughen up then if you do that, because you'll then have gone past the fast and hot into the low and slow, and although beef stroganoff is something that you can cook in a crock pot, low and slow, that's not what this particular meal is. This is supposed to be something that we do quickly and that you make sandwiches out of and you have lots of leftovers. Yay! Now you can actually watch. Hey, Chef Maria. Welcome in, welcome in. Thank you for coming. I understand if you need to lurk. We are making beef stroganoff sandwiches tonight, and uh, that will be something that my husband will greatly enjoy, and my dog will enjoy the cut-ins that I will cook for him after stream to put on his doggy food, and he's getting a little bit of extra pampering right now, and he deserves it. Um, so I am taking and standing this roast on end, and it normally comes tied together because it is a rolled section of meat, and that is something that I cut apart, and now I am proceeding. This would have gone a lot better for cutting it if you're going to be cutting meat like this, having it still be slightly frozen is a good idea. Put it in the freezer for about a half an hour. It will not be so floppy. So yes, that's another technical cooking term, floppy meat, which as we all know is never good. Um, so I am going to cut this carefully so I don't cut myself. That would be bad. We do not have a cut counter, and that could get really exciting with me because I have blood thinners. So in any case, I am going to spend the first part of this cutting up meat, and then I am going to start cutting mushrooms, and then it will come together very quickly after this. So we already have the first little bits, and like I said, they're about 1/4 of an inch wide and about 1 1/4 inches long, and that's about the size that you want it. I am going to get the half and half out of the way, and my mouse, and then going to get out my mise en place pan, or as we also like to call it, the one of the 30 pack of deep baking dishes that I got that are aluminum. Um, that will be served for the rest of the time we have them, either for an actual baking pan or it will be just what I do with all of the ingredients that go into the dishes I cook so that I have it set aside. So yeah, chuck roast, chuck steaks do have absolutely fabulous flavor. They do have very good texture when they're cooked correctly. And it's one of the meats that I grew up eating this partly because it was cheap and partly because this is what my parents ate. This is what they grew up eating, and once again, because it was cheap. Um, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong with inexpensive meat. I mean, a lot of times the most inexpensive meat is the most flavorful because of all the fat it has in it. You just have to have the appropriate cooking methods, and you need to know how to season the meat. If you don't season the meat, then it's going to taste very plain. So, but we don't do that. Um, Salt and pepper goes a long way to making food taste good. And in addition to that, I really like the flavor of uh, sage with it and rosemary and all kinds of lovely yumminess that goes on with that. I'm going to start taking the meat and putting it into my pan here. And hey Mav, welcome in. Welcome in also Mrs. Mav, who I understand is also uh, watching. And I am in the middle of cooking up or cutting up a cross rib roast, which is a chuck roast from the neck or shoulder of a cow. So it's got a lot of good marbling. It's got a lot of nice uh, texture. It's a nice heavy muscle. It's got absolutely amazing flavor. So it makes very good things if you're going to be cooking something low and slow like a stroganoff, or if you're going to be making a pot roast. This is your meat of choice, really. And in this case, we are going to be cooking it hot and fast, which is another way to cook meats that tend to be very tough if you don't cook them right. So if you cook it right there in the middle, you're going to end up with meat that is tougher than what you really want. And so I'm going to be going for a cooking temperature of about a medium when it's done, so it will still be pink inside and thus tender. And I am going to be sauteing this in a pan with herbs and spices and mushrooms because you gotta have mushrooms, just gotta. Trust me, it's gonna have a lot. It's gonna have 24 ounces of mushrooms in this bad boy. So we're going to be very happy about that when we're done. And alrighty then. So um, now the differences between making this as a regular stroganoff and making it, which you can saute in a pan, or making it as a sandwich is the amount of sauce that you put in it. If you were going to be putting this with about a pound of pasta, you would definitely be almost doubling the amount of sour cream and cream that I'm going to add to this so that you have enough to coat the pasta. Because we are going for sauce on a sandwich, we're going to go with about half that. So, and beef stroganoff, the sour cream and cream, a little bit of Parmesan cheese, the seasonings, the combination of the beef and mushrooms just goes really good on a sandwich. It just does. Um, so this is something that I make with hamburger and lots of mushrooms. And I will make a, did I just cut myself? No. I will make biscuit dough and roll it out like it's a pie dough. And I will take and put that, after I've cooked the filling, I will take and put that into a pie machine I have that makes little 4-inch pies. And uh, make little 4-inch pies that we can then throw into the freezer and have little um, beef stroganoff pies when we want a snack or a couple of them for a meal. And um, that's absolutely lovely. Maybe someday I'll show you that too. Um, You'd have to actually have the little pie plates or something to do that. This is just a little thing from Sunbeam, and you can make little fruit pies, you can make little savory pies, and you cook it in this, and then when you bring the uh, finished pie out, you glaze the top with some butter, and it just makes it intensely savory and yummy and delicious. And that's kind of the point, isn't it? So, uh, Pink Pig is making you nervous. She needs an apron or something. They are very very cute, and they are the perfect size. I make scrambled egg and sausage gravy pies for my husband. Sometimes he used to do it when we worked together at Intel when we didn't have time to stop for breakfast. So we made those once a week and threw them in the freezer along with some that I made with egg, bacon, and cheese for him. And we just take them into work frozen with us, nuke them in the microwave they had there, and have these lovely little pies for breakfast. And everybody else would wonder where we got them and had hoped they were in the cafeteria, but no. So as you see, I've had my career of making people hungry started a long time ago. This was over 12 years ago at this point. So I used to bring in lunches that we'd made. We cooked two, maybe three times a week, and we uh, cooked big batches of stuff, even though there was just the two of us, and we would always put it away in the freezer so that we had single serving um, dishes, and then whatever we felt like having that day, we didn't have to eat the same thing if we didn't want to, and I could bring in my uh, fried rice with um, almond chicken and almond chicken gravy, and Andrew could have, pot roast if he wanted to, or one of my pasta dishes, and, you know, it always smelled really good, and people would always come around to where the uh, microwaves were asking what it was we were cooking and where did we get it from. And that's a theme that I've heard for a lot of times. I knew I was on the right track to getting my recipe for my sweet red curry, that's Thai curry, that I got it right when people asked me what restaurant I got it from, and I told them I made it myself. And they asked if they could pay me to make it for them too. I should have said yes, but I didn't. Um, in any case, uh, a lot of the ways that I cook now, and I still cook, even if it's just two of us eating, um, it's something that uh, we've always preserved a lot of the food that I cooked, so we didn't have to cook so often because I like cooking, but especially when I was working full time, uh, it wasn't that much fun to have to come home and cook every night. So, yeah, and that's just human nature, I think. We were discussing this weekend that I need to really start cooking dough and bread for my mother because she needs to have salt-free bread, or as close as you can get, because yeast has salt in it. Um, and I was talking about I need to get a bread machine to do that, otherwise it's going to take me something like 6 hours to make bread every day. And I don't have the energy or the time or the gumption to want to do that. On the other hand, I don't want to pay $8 a loaf. And that's just, we were talking about how the heck it could be, and how did people used to do this all the time when everybody made their own bread and, did all their own cooking. And I said, well, that's why women got up so early in the morning and their daughters went out and collected the eggs and milked the cows and did the gardening and tending to the garden while she stayed in there and started the first batch of bread at about 4 in the morning, and then moved into cooking breakfast. And then by the time she was serving breakfast, she was already starting whatever it is she was cooking for uh, lunch. And by the time she was serving lunch, she was cooking dinner and cleaning up from everything else she'd already just done. And then she took and, you know, cleaned up at the end of the day. And then it was time to fall in bed exhausted. And it was just unending toil. And who needs that? uh, Better living through modern life, I would say. Maybe not as healthy for a lot of people, but definitely have a higher grade of life quality. We don't die all at 40 anymore from overwork. So, all right, this is most of the roast. Just a few little bits. As you can see, there's not really much left over here that I wasn't able to use. And now I will have my husband take this away and wash the beef blood off of it so that I can use it for cooking my mushrooms. Husband says, husband's dead. Nope, he's not. Not yet. He won't really be dead until after I have cooked the food and he's gathered up his sandwiches. So there that goes, and I now clean my hands with my hand wash and get all of the blood and ick off. I know I have a, oh, it's out of reach. Okay. Um, no, there's way too much ick involved in my life for the hand wash to get rid of it all. So, anyway, uh, all right. I am hoping that Tina Bug and the rest of my faithful followers can join us. As you can see at the top, we have reached our sub goal, or not our sub goal, our stream goal of improvement money. Um, and that was thanks to Tina Bug. She was incredibly generous, and I do thank her both in absentia and when she sticks her little nose in here, and then I will probably cry. But I do thank all of my supporters, both for your being here and for any support in bits and subs and everything else. I really do appreciate that. We both do. And it's just incredibly heartwarming. All right. Now I am going to turn to the fun guy. And for this, I have my favorite usual mushrooms for cooking with beef. And that is uh, cremini mushrooms, which are baby portobellas. And they have a stronger earthy flavor than the white button mushrooms that are about 50 cents cheaper. Not a really big one, but portobello mushrooms have a beefy flavor that they lend to things, so that pairs especially well with beef. And if I was going to be putting mushrooms in either with seafood or with chicken, I would be choosing a white button or maybe uh, some other variety of mushroom instead. But fortunately, we are dealing with portobello mushrooms and beef. And so here I start out, and you can tell when your mushrooms are fresh when you see that the little membranes at the bottom here are all sealed up in white and tight around the stem. They only start showing the gills underneath when they have been cooked a little bit. Pardon me, not cooked, when they have aged a bit. So um, we are looking to not get those ideally, but when you're buying a sealed package, it's kind of um, up in the air unless you happen to see one that's nose up. And I just quarter these, and it's quarter slices. I'm not actually cutting them into quarters because I just like them better when they're slices. So I am cutting these into 3 cuts across the top, making 4 slices, and some of these are really big mushrooms. I mean, that's a pretty big guy. That would be good for making stuffed mushrooms. And for me, a stuffed mushroom means stuffed with seafood and cream cheese and green onions and then broiled. Um, and they're just delicious. I will probably end up making those someday on stream. Either the appetizer version or the ones that are made with actual portobello mushrooms, which are a dinner portion sized. Where you would have a mushroom that's about this big around and probably has about a quarter of a Dungeness crab in it. And uh, cream cheese and Parmesan cheese and some green onion, and the mushrooms themselves would be sauteed first in herbs and wine and then allowed to dry a little bit so that they're not sopping wet, and then we would stuff them and continue on, and that makes every bite that you have absolutely full of flavor. We do have a new sub goal. Uh, it is actually a sub goal. It's a tiny little sub goal of 10. I think that's something that's very achievable. I don't like to set things that aren't achievable. So you will not see I would like $50,000 for a new van. But that is uh, much easier to say I would like to have $300 for the estimated cost to upgrade my streaming equipment, not the computer itself, but cameras and mounts and things like that, which we have now reached. Thank you all very much. And I will consider what else we can do to help make this better and get back to y'all. And for those of you who were here in the giveaway on Saturday, where we had our celebration giveaway of 5 pendants, your pendants are on the way. And I will say that I am going to be doing a further celebration when we reach 200 followers. When we reach 200 followers, I will be giving away a PDF copy of my cookbook. So that will be something that one of you will get. And that's filled with about 400 of my recipes and my family recipes. And uh, everything from vegetarian to soups and stews, cakes, cookies, candy, drinks, everything you could possibly want, including some canning recipes. Um, Although I do expect you already know how to can if you're going to be trying to do them. Um, so that is something that is cleverly named Cooking with Hedgepigs. That is why I chose to have my streaming name be Cooking with Hedgepigs instead of Hedgie, which is what I used to be called here. And it's because I named my cookbook Cooking with Hedgepigs. Um, I started doing this writing activity with my husband every November, which is called NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month. And the goal was to get a 50,000 word book novel put together. And you write towards that every day during the month of November. And I did that 3 years running, putting together Cooking with Hedgepigs. And it was at the time just a family cookbook, and that was all I really intended to do with it. But over time, I decided that maybe somebody else would like my cooking recipes. I don't know. I mean, my family likes my recipes, and I think they're pretty good, and I think I'm a pretty good cook, but you never know. There's always room for me to get a little too deep in my head and a little insecure and say maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, and especially when it's your parents saying you're a really good cook, and it's, well, what are they going to say? Ooh, this is crappy. Actually, my parents probably would, but because they didn't really ever try to shine anybody on. But this is 24. This is 24. See, this is an older mushroom, and you can see this because the white membrane seal around the bottom has left it. It's still good. The membrane inside, the gills, as they call them, those little brown things, they are still moist and it isn't dried up. It hasn't turned slimy. They're not molding. So they are good, healthy mushrooms. They are just, no, that one's not so good. One out of all of them. That's not too bad of a recipe. Uh, my parents always like to keep us grounded for whatever reasons. I guess they thought it was good parenting, and it probably was, except it taught me catastrophic thinking, which is, oh God, we're all going to die. And yeah, they taught me that. I do not have butter out here, honey. And I don't think. Oh, heck. No, it was on the list. And my hot plate is not plugged in. So I will reach behind here. Yes, that's my nose. I will reach behind here and get the plug and have my husband retrieve the other one from over there. Use a crutch or something like that to get it, honey. It's kind of underneath the pillow thing there. Have you got it hooked? No. But you did hook the pillow pretty well. There we go. Thank you. And I will now bring the two ends of the cord together. And voila, like that, we have power. Power! Power! Just for that, I think we need to have a little celebration from Pink Pig! Pink Pig! Pink Pig! Power for the Pink Pig! Pink Pig! Pink Pig! Power! Now that silliness is over. It'll come back. You know it'll come back. I can't seem to help myself some days. No, I'm on my meds. That's the difference. So I am going to cut off probably 3 tablespoons of butter. And then I am going to cut it into bits so that it melts faster. And this is, by the way, unsalted butter. Salted butter is very common for people to use. However, I prefer to add my own salt to things. I would prefer to have it in the amounts that I would like to have instead of what someone else at a dairy decided would be good. So just like when you're doing a lot of baking and things like that, the recipes tend to call for unsalted butter. We just use unsalted butter all the time. And that's one good way to control butter and, pardon me, salt. So I have got this now turned on about a medium. And I'm going to add probably 1 to 2 ounces of canola oil to this. That's about 1.5 ounces. I'm going to add that in there so that the butter doesn't burn. I don't add a lot of butter. You could do it, but Glittered Kitten. Hey, Hedge. Hey, Hedgie, you say it looks delicious. Does it? A big pile of mushrooms and a big pile of meat and a happy little pink pig. And yes, I tweaked her little nose. So I've got a 2.5 to 3 pound cross rib roast, which is a chuck roast here. And I have got 24 ounces of cremini mushrooms, which I have now cut into quarter slices. And as soon as the butter melts, and it shouldn't take very long before it starts to, I will get cooking the meat and the mushrooms. And it will come together pretty fast because I don't have to have pasta this time. So, I have only about a half view of what's going on in the pan, and that will improve later on. Looks like more mushrooms, and actually it's about even, and the mushrooms will shrink and the meat will not. So the mushrooms are going to go down by about half size. It's about a pound and a third of mushrooms right now. So they're just big mushrooms. And the meat is stacked tall. Honey, we need to find out what my parent is doing standing in the doorway. Okay. For those of you that don't know, my husband and I have custodial care of my parents, and we they occasionally come out here. They're supposed to stay out of the living room when we stream because this table and two chairs takes up our entire tiny living room, and there's really no place for them to sit. LD, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Uh, Hi, Hedgie Parent. Yeah, that was my mom, and I have got, like I said, 3 tablespoons of butter here, almost melted now, and I have about an ounce and a half of canola oil, so that will not burn. And I'm going to take my nifty little spoon rest for my spoonchula, so it will not drip all over my tabletop. And I'm going to nudge the heat up just slightly and add in the bunch of meat I've got here. And it is a considerably larger amount of meat than you might think when you see it in my giant pan here and realize that it is giant. So I have got this giant pan, and it is filled about 2 inches deep all the way across. And I am going to start cooking that. And you're going to need more butter on that? Go right ahead. I would say Hedgie's mom, because I do have people that call me Mama Hedgie because I can't seem to help myself from mothering anybody who's sick, so, or hungry. The first time I saw my husband's picture, um, before we'd met face to face, the picture I saw of him was when he was a year or two younger than when I actually met him, and he was this tall, raw-boned, gorgeous uh, British man, and he had broad shoulders, and he was kind of long and lanky, and his wrist bones stuck out. Oh my God, his wrist bones stuck out. And my first thought was, he's so cute. My second thought was, I have to feed him. And I have succeeded. So I will be putting the recipe up for this in my Discord after stream. But in the meanwhile, I'm just telling you quantities, and this does not want to turn. There we go. All right. So this is my new salt grinder, and it really doesn't want to turn. I wonder why. I'll have my husband break it in. It turns perfectly well if I'm not having it grind. It will eventually get there. Sorry, honey, I just can't get it to turn. It does not want to turn. Other way? Oh, well, yeah, that makes it easier. I was turning it the wrong way. Woohoo! Boy needs some milk. No, I said to myself, boy needs some lasagna. And I was right. Oh, geez, what did you just put on my head? He just put on the corgi hot popcorn canister. That the only reason he got it is because it had corgis on it. And for those of you that don't know, because I haven't actually mentioned it, I am wearing my Hedgepig hat. Yay! Hedgepig hat! And I have been wearing that all stream because I'm happy. So, I can now hear the meat starting to sizzle slightly. And I've put a little bit of salt in there, probably 1/4 teaspoon, not a lot. I prefer to season it after it's cooked a bit. But for some things, like for instance the rosemary, um, I would prefer to do it right off the bat. So I am putting in about a 1/4 teaspoon of rosemary. I don't want this to overpower the flavor of the sour cream I have, and I don't want the sage to do it either, but I'm also going to be putting sage in there. And once again, this is only about 1/4 teaspoon of sage, and this is ground sage rather than rubbed sage this time. And that will just help, uh, season up the meat and let it think about what it's done. So I gotta get that away from it because the paper towel does not need to be against a heating element. That could be dangerous. And when this meat gets a little bit browned on the outside, I'm going to add the mushrooms to it so that all that nice mushroom liquor that's going to come off will add in here. And as I said, there's 2 ways to cook a chuck meat. One is low and slow, and one is fast and hot, and I'm going for a saute here so it will be faster and hotter with an aiming for a temperature of about a medium. Let me see. Yeah, that was my hat. Uh, I assume LD is doing well. I've got, I have been watching people play in his tournament, and I have verified that once again my husband knows what he's doing. And when he told me that I would not be able to stream games on the laptop I have, I said, well, yeah, but it doesn't have that big of uh, graphics on it. Not like, TLD doesn't have huge graphics. It's not like Skyrim or something like that. And I knew that his computer, because he'd tried streaming Skyrim on it, uh, and dropped a lot of frames. Um, I knew that it wouldn't work for Skyrim, but surely it would work for this. And he tested it with Minecraft and dropped a ton of frames. And I said, yeah, but this Minecraft has, even though it's sort of jinky graphics, it's got a lot going on. Everything's making noise, everything's moving. It isn't quite that bad in TLD. So he uh, did a test of TLD, and it dropped frames like a bucket without a bottom. So I then decided, well, maybe I could try it with a really simple game, good 14-year-old game that's, something like you would play on Facebook or something, and that little thing still dropped frames. So no, I I don't uh, I don't think that anything that Andrew can't figure. Wow. I think I'm dropping bits now if I'm understanding what I'm looking. Ugh. Computer hasn't quite reacted right since I tried to restart it before stream and nearly killed it. I have done things like this repeatedly in the past where I have tried to shut down the computer or open Google or turn off my computer or turn it on, and I have fried, in one case, a motherboard, and 2 other times I fried the hard drives of my laptop. And Andrew has had to fix it from there, asking me, what the heck did you do? And my response is always, I don't know, I didn't do anything weird. But in any case, uh, this is a good 7, almost 8-year-old laptop, so I don't really expect it's got the built-in graphics card that can really handle it all. Maybe if I had a setup where I had a separate computer to be the streaming computer, it would work. But as of right now, it cannot handle being both the streaming computer and the game computer. So this appears to be different because it's only having to put across my voice and a camera feed versus the in-depth needs of a computer game. So I shall wait until I can afford to upgrade to a new computer. And my husband tells me my next computer will not be a laptop, so despite my love of laptops. And I'll let him handle it because he knows what I want to do and he has a much more realistic view. So this is starting to be browned on most of the sides of this. I've got a considerable yummy, tasty meat juices coming off of this, and at this point I'm going to start heaping my mushrooms in, which will fill it completely, and then we'll have to keep flipping it to let the mushrooms cook down and release their liquor. The juices inside, which is basically all water that's a little flavored, and then the uh, mushrooms will then go to about half their size. So okay. So this is, like I said, about 3 pounds of chuck roast, and called a cross rib roast in this case. At least that's what the butcher wrote on it. And then it is 24 ounces of cremini mushrooms that I have quartered. And I'm going to wipe the bloody edge of this because it's dripping blood on my table and I don't want it to do that, and I especially don't want it to drip blood anywhere that Pink Pig might go. So I will move that off to the side now too. All right, I'm going to move this out of the way off to the side as well because it's got little mushroom bits on it and everybody can admire my green sweater. And I will try to get my meat further away from the heat and my mushrooms further towards the heat. And I am going to take, that looks pretty close to medium right now, maybe medium rare at this point. It's still got a bit to cook. It's going to cook at least another 10 minutes with the mushrooms in it. And then I'm going to be adding in some sour cream and half and half, and checking the seasoning to make sure everything tastes good before I get out some French rolls. And they aren't the French rolls that I wanted, but since I didn't go to the store to pick them out myself, the shopper that we had picked out what they found and wasn't what I asked for. So they are the ones that unfortunately look a little like hot dog buns. They don't have the texture of hot dog buns, but they have that little split area in the top. And you need to go down on the bottom because you're not browned yet. So I will bring this closer in. Ouch. It's a little hot, but you'll be able to see better what I'm doing. Is there a story? Why is Streamlabs bad? I'll let Andrew talk about that. I have a vague recollection of it, but usually when he starts talking about computers, I start hearing blah, 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 like the adult sound in the old Peanuts um, movies. Um, Pretty happy with the way Stream Elements has performed. Took a little bit to get used to it, but I was still getting used to Streamlabs, so that was fine. All right. I have got the cooking juices now over most of this, including the mushrooms. And I'm fairly sure I will have to continually test these mushrooms to see how cooked they are. Because a little known fact about Hedgepigs is that we like uh, we like mushrooms as much as hobbits do. So, what's that? It's an article link there about why we switched. Yeah, basically. So Andrew had some issues with that, so we switched. He's my stream tech, and whatever he says goes, including let's not do pasta again today. So I cleverly switched that. He says that's only because the pasta's out of my reach, and he's probably right about that too. He does like to put the things that I like to use on the very top shelves, and then he cackles about it. So he has to get some entertainment here. So I'm going to grab that little piece of meat out of there and cut it in half. And yep, that's just a little bit past medium. And because I cooked against the grain, cut against the grain, it is something that I have, instead of having it be really tough and hard to chew, uh, it's tender despite not having cooked very long. So I'm adding some more salt to this because it needs it. I can taste a little bit of sage and a little bit of rosemary, and that's really all I want in this because the main flavor of this, Andrew Cooks is raiding with a party of 19. Welcome in. I don't know who you are, so why don't you tell me about yourself? Uh, I will tell you that I am Hedgepig, and I am a grandmother trained cook with 44 years of cooking behind me. And I am sharing my love of cooking and home style recipes with my friends here on Twitch. Hello, hello, welcome in, welcome in. Welcome in also JFRYK, JFreak. Uh, you do cooking streams a few days a week and beef stroganoff sandwich sound delicious? Oh, they are. It is beef stroganoff made a little less saucy, piled onto French rolls, and then devoured with much eager nomming sounds. So I have my Discord lists all of the recipes that I have cooked on stream, along with taunting pictures of how pretty they were when I was finished with them. And so if you would care to join my You made Spetzel with sausages. Oh, that sounds good. You redeemed a pink pig. Okay, this is Pink Pig. She is one of my many little hedge pig toys, and she's a happy little soul. Hedge pig, pink pig, it's Pink Pig. Pink pig dances. Yay! It is beef stroganoff on sandwiches. Yay! Spetzel is a lovely thing. I'm pretty sure most people know what it is, but it's basically a German style of noodle that is extruded through basically a kind of screen into hot water, so it comes out kind of short and a little lumpy in shape, so they have kind of a natural curling shape to them, and they're delicious. I'm a big fan of noodles anywhere. Yes, Pink Pig. Pink Pig came out to see you all. So she likes to sit and overlook things. And although I understand from Mrs. Nog, she gets a little nervous about whether or not Pink Pig's going to get splashed. But I'm very careful we don't splash Pink Pig. So the mushrooms are starting to release their juices now. They are about halfway through the cooking process, so they have started to shrink as they lose their water, and that's a good thing. As you can see, this mushroom has turned dark. It has also shrank. This mushroom is still pale, and it has not shrank. So if I put them here together, you can see the difference, I hope. Yep. And when all of my mushrooms look like the smaller mushroom, that is when we will start adding the rest of the ingredients to this. And this isn't a strictly 100% authentic beef stroganoff. I don't have onions in here, and I am going to be adding things other than just sour cream to it. Um, but it's darn delicious, and it's the way I've always cooked it, so I am going to keep passing this recipe on. This tastes like my beef stroganoff, although I normally serve it. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll see you in a little bit, Mav. He is playing Ark Survival Evolved, and he is imprinting some of his creatures that he has bred so that they will be extra vicious and do a lot more damage. And considering the amount of time that you put in on these things, if you miss an imprint, your dragon does, or your dino does, half the damage. I don't know if he's breeding wyverns at this point or not, but I suspect he's doing gigas. Um, I do play on a server with him, and one of the two games that I play, the other one being the Long Dark. Surely Pink Pig is in danger? Not really, but I will move her so that you feel a little more secure. She's now in a seat over on the chair next to me, and I will continue to cook this here. More of a parasol lady. Maybe she needs an umbrella. Something with lace that would go with her tutu, I think she would greatly enjoy. And for those of you who have inquired, she is from a stuffed animal line called a Squishable. And the hedgehog squishables are retired. They don't make them anymore. Um, I do happen to know that you can find a pink pig on eBay right now, but they're used, and I get kind of an ick factor at the idea of a used stuffed animal. But anyway, so you cook a couple times a week. How long have you been streaming, Andrew? I have been streaming since the day before Halloween, so only about 4 months now. Now you can't see. Well, you could always drop the channel points to see her again. She's always happy to see people, always happy to dance around and make me sing in falsetto. So the mushrooms have just turned to the point where I want them to. So I am now going to get out my sour cream, and uh, in recipes that are very simple, you want to go with the best quality. Uh, you want to go with the best quality ingredients you can, because the simpler the recipe, the harder it is to hide low quality. Um, So I've got Darigold sour cream here. I go back and forth between whether I'm using Darigold or if I'm going to use um, like Daisy. That's pretty good too. And I use the full fat sour cream because why not? Um, and this is going to put in about a cup and a half of sour cream. I'm going to start with that. So I have got about a cup and a half of sour cream, and I will now take and scrape that down as well as I can. And I think that's probably going to be enough for this because I'm going to add some cream to it to thin it a little bit more. And I'm going to add about a half a cup of cream to this once I get the lid off. If I get the lid off. I can't get the lid off. Let me do this the independent way. And when that fails, I call husband, my beloved, my darling. I need your big, strong, manly hands to open another jar for me. I know how much you like to. Thank you. I just couldn't grip it. So that's about half a cup added in there. And I will now work at mixing the sour cream and the cream in with the residue, the beef juices, the butter, the mushroom juices into here. And once upon a time, I used to make this with cream of mushroom soup, but that was before I was allergic to garlic, and they put garlic in cream of mushroom soup, so now I don't have cream of mushroom soup anymore, not unless I make it. So that has really cut my ingredients. You make it too? You're going to have to show us what you would make Spätzle with. Have another cooking stream, LD. Yeah, schnitzel is pretty darn yummy. Veal schnitzel in particular, since I don't do pork either. All right, I've got lots of liquid in this, which is actually enough for pasta. I didn't think it was going to make that much, but it did. It will cook down a little bit, which is fine. And I am going to do something a little weird here. And I am going to use the smallest cup. Take a taste of the sauce just as it started. Oh, that's lovely. You can taste the beef in it. You can taste the mushrooms. You can taste a hint of the rosemary. You can taste a hint of the sage. And it doesn't need any salt, in my opinion. You can taste the tang of the sour cream. And it is loose because of the cream I added to it. I didn't want to add more sour cream because uh, tangy things are not really my husband's favorite. Now, as I said, this isn't really a traditional uh, beef stroganoff because I have always added Parmesan cheese to it. So not enough to actually make it taste like a Alfredo sauce, but it does add a little extra salt to it, and it does tighten up the um, sauce a bit, and I have a solid piece of that in here, and I am probably adding a quarter cup to this. And then I will be stirring that around in there. I like cheese with most things anyway. Cheese is my happy place. Um, so I think that the cheese adds a nice depth to this. I don't. It says ask a question about a recipe or equipment, but I'm wondering how you and Andrew got so awesome. Well, I married the awesome. So I really can't take much credit for that, except for the fact that I hunted him down in a different country, and I worked my Hedgepiggly wiles on him and got him to move over here and marry me. So that's really all I can claim of it. I'm going to let this sauce reduce a little bit, and it will finish cooking the mushrooms, and it'll add in some more flavor to the beef. Now that I've got all of the seasonings and the sour cream and the cream in here, um, so I will let that cook a little bit and leave it alone, or I will try to. I might have to try a mushroom, for instance, now. See how that tastes. So I will lift this little mushroom bit out because I have to taste it, you know. 12 years of not killing each other. That is the truth. Hmm. Yum. The mushrooms are tender all the way through, and they are at the perfect stage for eating. The beef is pretty good too, but I do have to let the sauce reduce before I can put it on sandwiches. At this point, if I was going to be making this beef stroganoff, what I would do is cook wide egg noodles, and I would take those wide egg noodles and I would drain them but not rinse them so that they still had the starch on it. And that way then when the starch combines with the sauce that's on this, it'll thicken the sauce further. So, well, I don't know how you met online, but my husband and I were in a gaming society. We were both storytellers in the gaming society, so we met in an especially nerd-like way. So it wasn't a dating site, although lots of people that we know end up married from there. They can't hear you, can they, honey? I can hear my husband talking in my ear, and
Hedgie.
he just covers
Tinaboo Heart Cookin'
nerd.
52 Hedgie Love Cookin' 52 Hedgie Love.
All right. Now, what I am going to do with this eventually is, what was that? Tina Bug! Tina Bug's on! Hey, welcome in, Tina Bug. Let's see, I didn't see what she said, if she said something. Um, I have got these lovely French rolls. They're not the ones I wanted. They have this little split design. Subscribed at tier 1. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tina Bug. Thank you for the subscription, and I will take the opportunity now to thank you for your very kind and very generous um, gift and donation that you gave us, and uh, I'm going to try really hard not to cry, but we do thank you very much for it. You have been looking forward to this stream. Okay, well, here it is. You'll have to catch the VOD for most of it. I have got 2.5 to 3 pounds of a cross rib chuck roast in here that I cooked up, sliced up against the grains so that it would be tender. And I've got 24 ounces of cremini mushrooms that I sliced. And I've trying to scoot my chair back slightly, sorry. Uh, I have got about a half a teaspoon of um, sage and rosemary in here. I have not yet added the parsley that will come later. It's got a cup and a half of sour cream. It has a cup and a half, pardon me, about a quarter to a half a cup of cream in this, and about a quarter of a cup of Parmesan cheese. And I am waiting for the sauce to reduce a little bit before I make the sandwiches. This will, at this point, you could add pasta to this if you wanted to, just don't drain it. And um, well, I appreciate all the love you're paying forward, Tina Bug, and welcome into my VIP club. Um, you could add in the pasta at this point, drain it, do not rinse it because you will want the starch that's from the pasta to help thicken the sauce here. Or you could just add more Parmesan cheese to it, which isn't strictly authentic, but sure tastes nice. Um, I'm trying to let this cook down, but it's awfully hard. I really wish I had smell-o-vision. This smells so good. Yes, now he can do it without coming out here and smacking me on the shoulder and pointing frantically at the stream uh, computer to tell me that I had something I needed to pay attention to. Gluten and cheese, yes. I guess you could make it without gluten. And you could thicken the sauce further if you wanted to with some arrowroot, which is uh, non-gluten. Um, but as much as you would think that I would be, gluten is not something I have trouble with. So, oh well, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, you know, poke anybody in the eye about that. Um, it is something that I am just grateful for. With all of my other food allergies, I don't have to worry about that. I am going to take my small copper frying pan here and kind of fit it onto this and turn the heat on to about a medium to medium high. And I have split my French roll. This is not a hot dog bun. And I am going to slightly toast the inside. So I'm going to lay it out here and let it toast. For to paying my husband for his wonderful work on my stream with food. So I am just going to let this continue to yeah, a lot of times you can cook, put a lot of my food over rice, over quinoa. You can put it over noodles, or you could put it over toast. That tastes pretty good in a lot of cases too. I tend to make things with gravies and sauces, and they're all very flavorful. You can put it over your mouth, and it does smell absolutely amazing in here. You can smell the herbs, and the creaminess actually has a smell. And at this point, I am going to add some parsley in because it's not my food if I don't add parsley to it. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of parsley because brown food is good. Brown food with green flecks is better. Think of the poor dog who's nearby smelling all this. Yeah. I've got some little scraps that I can cook afterwards for him to put on his dog food, but yeah, he's not going to get this. This would probably make him sick. It's a little too rich for his little aged system. So, although you can't see it, the sauce is reducing, um, which is what you want to do. And I know that this was originally supposed to be a pasta stream where I was going to make fettuccine alfredo and pasta carbonara for you all. But I switched that to Saturday to give us a break from pasta, although this could certainly be served on pasta. Using worthless food words like delicious. It is important for food over stream, and you really do well. Oh, thank you. Uh, my dog is doing very, very well. He came out without any organ damage at all. So we feel very blessed for that. Um, he was so healthy that the second vet that took the blood work actually asked me if I was sure he had been poisoned. I put in half a teaspoon of um, rosemary and half a teaspoon of sage, and I just put in a tablespoon of um, parsley, and it has about a quarter teaspoon of salt. Um, it has a cup and a half of uh, sour cream, half a cup of half and half in it, and it has again about 3 pounds of chuck roast and 24 ounces of cremini mushrooms. And this will make this lovely creamy broth that it's got in it right now, and I will probably add more um, cheese to it just because I like it. You don't have to. You can leave it out if you want to. But I like it with Parmesan cheese in it, so darn it, I'm going to add some more. And I just added in another about quarter cup, so that's got a half a cup in it now. Still not enough to make this qualify as a Alfredo sauce. That uses a lot more. And I will be showing you my fettuccine Alfredo made traditionally. And I do mean traditionally. That doesn't make a white sauce in it. This is made with reduced cream and butter and then cheese. And then you put your pasta in it and the starches from the pasta and the cheese comes in there and thickens the sauce, and it's velvety and creamy and just so delicious and so easy to make. It's a malicious someone. Um, our our apartment doesn't have anything that they would be um, using slug and snail bait for, and especially not the area where we walk our dog. It's basically earth that they put some mulch over, and he, while he was being walked in the dark, apparently snapped up some of the slug and snail bait, and less than an hour later he was convulsing. And uh, I don't put thyme in things a lot because I don't like the taste of thyme. If you put too much in there, it kind of tastes like dirt to me. Um, I am not going to Scarborough Fair. I do love that song, and for the longest time I would put thyme in it as well because it seemed like whenever anybody put parsley and sage in something, and rosemary, they also put thyme in it. Um, but in this case, no. I will put it in stuffing, but that's about it. Um, I just think that rosemary and sage go so well with so many meats that it's pretty much a go-to spice for me. Yeah, dried thyme is pretty awful. Like I said, it tastes like dirt. Um, Not a taste that I enjoy. So I spent most of my misspent youth before high school listening to Simon and Garfunkel. So yeah, that was one of my favorite songs. My favorite album by them was their concert in Central Park, and I
Pink Pig.
wore out 4 tapes of that, cassette tapes, because they didn't have CDs back then, and I didn't have a record player. What was that? Pink Pig! Alright, I need to reach Pink Pig now. Did you buy Pink Pig again, or did someone else do it? Pink Pig! Yay! Pink Pig! Yay! Yay! Pink Pig! Pink Pig! So there's our latest appearance of Pink Pig. And I am just adding a little bit of a toast to the inside of this bread. I've got the slightest simmer going on this sauce to reduce it. It is also doing that low heat, slow temperature kind of thing with the meat in here now. And that's also good. And of course, it's also doing it to the mushrooms, which is a very fine thing to do to mushrooms. And I am going to rob this of another piece of meat. Hmm. It's very tender. And because it is a chuck uh, roast, it is also very, very beefy in flavor, very flavorful and yummy. So, this I would serve with maybe a salad on the side or some chips. Um, this would taste wonderful with a Waldorf salad. Um, it was the clarinet's fault. Yeah, clarinets squeak a lot like that. I understand a lot of them have that fault. So, mm, very tasty. And this is one of the few times that I have ever turned on both burners of my hot plate here. And once again, you can see all of my equipment that I use on stream in my streaming equipment section of my Discord, if you are curious. If you want to know what my pots and pans are, if you want to know what my hot plate is, and it looks like this is ready to go. Doesn't have a lot of color on it, but I didn't butter it at all, so it wouldn't. And I am going to put another one in. And I will carefully cut that open, unlike my husband, who used the knife and cut it towards his hand and cut his hand open and made me shriek when I saw that as he came into the bedroom a couple nights ago and said, "Do we have any of that Neosporin stuff?" and is dripping blood all over the floor because he cut his hand. Only dripping blood a bit, yeah, and it was enough to freak me out. So, just a little bit, you say. All right. Okay, so I am going to take this and get out my turning the heat off underneath that and getting out my husband plate. And I am going to fit this together so it works again. And take and ladle the meat and mushrooms liberally across this. And I will finish it with some sauce to soak into the bread because you gotta have that. And it's got lots of mushrooms and lots of meat. And I thought about actually doing this on a whole French loaf and then just cutting it into sandwiches from there, but I decided not to. I thought it would be a little neater to have it so that it is only on a bread roll. Um, this will make itself some nice juice, which I have got here now. You could add some mozzarella cheese to this that it would melt very easily. And you know what? I'm not going to bother making it look like a sandwich that isn't an open face one because it's going to be an open face sandwich. Which means husband will have to use a knife and fork. And I think that, but I would be wrong. Okay. Well, then you can tame it, you can tear into it like a wolverine if that's what you really want to do. I'm going to reverse this so I've got them leaning towards each other. And I am going to add more meat to this. And more mushrooms. And add some sauce to this side of the bread. And then I will have my husband come out here so that we can turn on the extra light. And I will clean up my plate a little bit here so that it looks pretty. I know, work, 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 but it's over and you get to eat now. So, I have now got this here, and I'm going to bring out my cell phone and my camera. And I am going to take a picture of this from above and then from the side. And then I will hand this beautiful plate, as you can see, off to my husband, and he can taste it and tell you what it tastes like. Although he will type it, not say it. And as I have mentioned before, these are solid cast iron plates underneath this in my hot plate, and so once they heat up, they continue to be hot for quite a while afterwards. So this is still continuing to reduce the sauce and cook that. And I will now take my plate and I will take my bread, what is just toasted and starting to show some color, and I will turn that off and take it off so it doesn't do naughty things to it. And I will now take and ladle food onto mine, although I really should have used one of my ciabatta rolls for mine. This, I just wish you could all smell it. This just smells so incredibly good. And yeah, I'm trying to make it look pretty instead of just piling it on here. Because I want you guys to look at the pictures of it and go, oh, that looks so good. Oh, that looks so pretty. I want that. And you do. Trust me, you do. This is absolutely gorgeous in flavor, absolutely gorgeous in aroma. And I am going to... You can't prove I'm mostly taking mushrooms. Who can tell the difference between a mushroom and a meat? My husband says I can literally see you doing it. Also 3 glasses of wine deep, so yeah. All right. Sounds like a good place to be, Nog. Are you done with streaming for the night? Not going to be working on the uh, tournament anymore? I am going to put a light dusting of parsley over the top so it has a little bit of fresh green stuff on top just to make it look extra pretty. And I will also clean up any drips on the plate. Well, I'm going to have to eat that piece. Very yummy. So here is the second plate, and it is absolutely yummy. It's so good. Um, I am going to say that my stream is nearing an end, and I'm going to find somebody that I can raid. If one of you is going to be continuing on, let's see, who do I have? We have got nobody that I know of that is a cooking streamer, but we have Hambone81 on. Let us raid Hambone81. He is playing the Long Dark, and I'm pretty darn sure that he is also playing the tournament. So I thank you all for coming. I thank you all for your love and your support, your subscriptions and resubscriptions, for your donations and your bits, and your love of Pink Pig. Pink Pig! Yay! Pink Pig! Now, thank you all for coming. I will see you
Pink
Saturday
Pig.
at 4 to 5 p.m., somewhere in there. I'll know a little bit more closer to the time. And we will be making fettuccine alfredo and pasta carbonara. Oh, no problem at all. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Love you all, and I'll see you later.